Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another stupendous episode of season 2 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow guest.
It's Mr. Solis.
All right, sir. So it's been a while since we last recorded, and that's mainly due to WWE's schedule for once not having a pay-per-view the month before Mania.
Instead, focusing on properly building up Wrestlemania. Mm-hmm. And boy, did they.
Mm-hmm. And I will take credit here for this idea, as I've said it for years, that they should use the final month or so instead of just throwing filler pay-per-views at us.
Like Fastlane or Roadblock, something that seems like they're doing it just to do it. Yeah, let's work that all right.
Mm-hmm. But so first off, sir, since it's been a while, how have you been?
I've been good. Spring break is next week. We've got less than 80 days left of the semester. Mr. Sleece is already counting down. You know what? I'll share inside scoop, but exclusive for you in the Rule 34 podcast audience, Jack. I have applied to be my school's assistant principal.
Oh, wow.
Or one of them. Schools are allowed to have more than one. And I thrown my name into the hat. And I said, let's go, let's do this. So I put together the most impressive resume I've ever had, Jack. And I have gone through one round of interviews, and I'm waiting patiently to hear if I move on to round 2. If I don't, it's a learning experience. I'll know what to expect. And this is a goal I think I have, professional goal that I have for the next couple of years, if not sooner. And yeah, that's new with me. What's new with you?
That's very good news to hear, sir. Hoping all the best. I've been doing well too. Mainly just relaxing for the most part, getting through all of this, doing pretty well. Tom and I have been recording. We haven't recorded yet in the past week because we're trying to really get a good topic going for us.
Yeah.
And other than that, I've been doing pretty well.
Cool.
I've been trying to catch up on a lot of the wrestling that's been happening.
I've fallen so far behind, Jack. I missed a New Japan Cup tournament.
The largest one too. You're not alone. I missed most of that as well.
But what's great about New Japan World is when you go into an event, actually you can pick exactly the match you want to watch, which I think is really cool.
Oh wow, yeah. I remember when the WWE Network used to let us skip ahead, have those chapters. Now we're stuck with Peacock.
There's a couple of shows that happened during WrestleMania weekend that I'm going to look up to. Masha Slamovich, I forget for what show, wrestled a bear, and I kind of need to know how that story ended. Don't tell me, Jack, if you know.
I've never heard. I didn't even hear about that. Wow, that's surprising.
There's at least one match that featured a bear.
Yeah, the one I wanted to try and catch, but I just didn't get the opportunity to, was Bloodsport this year. Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, because Moxley was on it, Jonah was on it.
Was that Moxley versus, what's his name?
Formerly known as Oni Lorcan.
Yeah.
Now known as Biff Busick, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. Yeah, I saw pictures of that one and how bloody it got, and then I think there's a female name that I'm forgetting who was on there, but it looked like a pretty impressive card, but I just ended up missing it.
It's on sale, and I get the sense that the replays are on sale on Fight TV.
More than likely.
Might be a nice evening, an evening's entertainment this week.
Yeah, and then ROH happened, the reboot.
Supercard.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were upset with the way things went because a bunch of AEW contracted superstars ended up winning the titles.
Yeah.
But that's to be expected as they're under contract, whereas all the previous ones aren't under contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then the big surprise was Samoa Joe showing up at the end, making his wrestling return, and immediately being announced that he has signed with AEW.
Wow. He's all elite, huh?
it is quite crazy to think that that all happened, and the roster just they're building over there.
Goodness gracious.
But
WWE, though, will not be dismayed. The rosters change, a little lighter. But that doesn't stop them from trying to fill 8 hours across 2 nights for 2 audiences of about 75,000 people.
Mm-hmm. It was quite a crazy show. And if we're being honest, I think it was for like the most part, semi-consensus that, that not a lot of people were excited for the show. You could say it kind of was undesirable, but by the end of it, it was undeniable that it was a pretty great show overall.
Clever. But you're absolutely right. For all that build that they did over the course of March, it was hard to kind of feel excited like we have for WrestleMania's past. And I think there were a couple of things that over delivered, right? Or delivered past expectations. A couple of things under delivered, but you got a lot of surprises that really paid off.
Yeah.
That like nobody counted on paying off the way that they did.
Yeah, everyone in a sense was kind of writing it off. They wrote it off, especially because, like you said, the build wasn't as great. It kind of, aside from a couple matches, it kind of rivaled how people felt about WrestleMania 31 back in the day, where they didn't really like the build up to a lot of those matches. They felt it was either terribly built or just quite thrown together at the last second.
And that was a WrestleMania that was saved by a Money in the Bank cash-in that no one saw coming.
Yeah. And so
you were like, what's going to make this any memorable, very memorable? Something that is not announced to happen by surprise.
Yeah, very, very similar situations here. But, again, like the previous 2 years, WrestleMania split across 2 nights makes it more digestible, to consume 8 hours over 2 days rather than all in one day.
New Japan did it first.
Yeah, and as it came on later in the show, next year here in LA, also going to be 2 nights. Many people thought or were speculating it would head back to 1 night, but they're showing the commitment and kind of showing, that yes, while it is, some could view it as a better option to have just 1 night packed in with an audience. They've shown that even if they split it across 2 nights, they can still get the same attendance as they were getting before.
I heard that they were really struggling to sell this one out. They announced 75,000 people for an arena that I think fits 100,000.
Yeah.
So I think the football games pull in like 90,000, but you got your big old stage to block off a bunch of the arena, right?
Yeah.
Here's hoping that the storylines get better, their character development and star building capacity gets better, so that more people are excited about this show. If not, in a year's time, if they're still struggling, then we can get some $20 WrestleMania tickets. Let's go.
Yeah, or here's to hoping they do some type of bundle for night 1 and 2, so you don't have to choose between the nights.
Buy 1, get 1 night free. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind that, especially because I don't think I could handle that pressure of needing to choose, because especially looking at this card, it might have been hard to choose, but by the end of it, we'll see what we think about. We'll give our opinions on what we thought, which night was better and which one we would have hoped to have gone to.
Absolutely. But you know what, too? You think, which night would I want to go to? And also, what night would I like to watch from the comforts of my home with the camera? Choosing where I'm looking.
Yeah, honestly, because I guess I'll save it for later, but looking at the 2 nights, I think I can answer that like these 2 nights. Because while one answer may seem like, it would be better to be there in person, thinking of it that way and having the enjoyment of being able to actually watch it instead of, being high up or far away and not getting to see the action in detail, But more on that later, as we'll start off. Though both nights had pre-shows, nothing much really happens. They do the usual pre-show panels, no matches, no battle royales. All that.
Imagine, Jack, 4 hours of pre-show and no matches.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't at least throw in one of the battle royals that they used to do at Mania.
You know? I don't even think there was a women's battle royale this year.
Nope. And I don't even remember there being one last year, if I'm being honest.
Oh, dang. Yeah.
So that one's completely vanished.
Yeah, because they keep letting them go.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying that they should have done one, but it's like, man, they would have had to done a lot of, hey, NXT talent that are all in Dallas this week, can you show up here? We'll give you a little bit of a pay raise or a nice bonus for showing up.
But it's worth mentioning that on SmackDown on Friday, the Andre the Giant Battle Royale happened like it does every year, and it was won by who, Jack?
Madcap Moss.
Funny. You know, the guy that really getting behind him, maybe kind of. Hard to tell what this distinction means, but congratulations, Madcap Moss.
Yeah. And so we start night one off with the Usos defending their SmackDown tag titles against Shinsuke and Rick Boogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was quite afraid because of how this match went down that maybe it was a sign of what was coming for the rest of the night, but thankfully everything that followed, went well and according to plan for the most part, but what I'm alluding to is that, in the match, Rick Boogs ended up going down and that kind of cut the match short. But all the stuff leading up to it was kind of showing that it was going to be at least a decent tag match. I mean, you had Rick Boogs and Nakamura making a big entrance on the big stage. Of course, Pat McAfee dancing, the Usos also got their entrance, and they were doing pretty well, but it was up until that spot with Boogs that, things just hit a wall because of...
And the spot was, he has one Uso across his shoulders and a fireman carry. Another Uso's going to jump on him so that he has both Usos in a fireman carry, which he probably can do because he's a beast and he's strong as heck, and you should follow him on Instagram. The guy just lifts all of the weights, but his knee gives out on him, and it looks like it's legit because we don't see him for the rest of the match, and he has to be carried out. And Jack, that ramp is so long, and they have so far to carry him.
Yeah. So I definitely knew it was legit because the way he crawled out, and then the moment he does, they slowly started panning the camera more towards the right side, but like you saw doctors running over, and they kept it real, like a real emphasis on the right side, so you couldn't see him getting checked up on. And then later, I think it was either later of night one, or maybe even night two, that they showed like the footage of them carrying him alongside the ramp, not up the ramp, and it was taking like 4 people to carry the guy.
Rick Boogs is a big old guy, right?
Yeah.
I think about that for myself. If ever I need to be transported anywhere, God help anybody I'm around, because I'm a lot of guy.
I feel you the same way, sir. I didn't buy this Bronson Reed thick boy shirt for a reason.
But Rick Boo goes down. Shinsuke tries, but Usos retain with a 1D, one and done.
So the Usos retain, and obviously anything goes. But some people looked at it as a sign of hope. Or I saw someone saying, "Oh, well, they're doing this so the faction can hold all the gold." And then I was like, "They've been holding all the gold for the past few months. What do you mean? This isn't new."
Yeah. Yeah, I actually could have seen Shinsuke and Rick Boogs win. And, it's hard to tell if that was not the original plan.
Yeah, especially with that huge entrance that they got, with Boogs
playing
the guitar and all that.
Alas, we'll know when either of them writes a book. Or in their WWE 24 episode.
Yeah. So Usos retain. Hope all is good with Rick Boogs. Easy recovery, hopefully, for the guy. And we move on to a match that, much like it, or we'll say this, it's one of the matches that was kind of feeding into the whole underwhelming Mania, not much to look forward to. Happy Corbin versus Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
A lot of people weren't really interested. I was interested because I was like, well, at least I know that they're both pretty good wrestlers, that, given the time, can get people invested, and I think they pretty much did get people invested into a storyline that hasn't been getting that great of a build.
Yeah, it's been real hit or miss, but you got two capable guys going at it. You got two bigger guys going at it. So there's a lot to look forward to here.
Yeah.
And you know what? I haven't been watching SmackDown, but Happy Corbin tells maybe I'm trying to think of the word. The cringiest? No. The most gutter. No, it's like he tells maybe the most offensive joke I've heard told on WWE TV in an awfully long time.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I think that's enough to propel this whole feud. I think that's enough for Drew McIntyre to come out and start looking for blood and redemption. He steals a sword named Angela. Who's Angela, Jack?
Drew McIntyre's past mother.
Right, passed away. And Baron Corbin says, want to hear a joke? What does a sword and his mother have in common? He lost them both. Oh!
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah, the moment I saw that, I was like, okay, I don't care what anyone says. They're more than likely going to give a good match if they're throwing that type of joke in there.
That's some Eddies in Hell kind of heat right there.
Yeah. I was like, man, they're throwing everything at the wall to really get people invested into Drew just beating up Corbin. Kind of reminds me when, I forgot what feud it was, but I remember they told Charlotte about her brother.
Yes. It was that bad.
But so what'd you think of the match, sir?
It was good. You know what's funny? As much as I don't like Happy Corbin, if I were creating a wrestler, I would borrow his entire move set from my character. Yeah. Yes, you know what I mean? The Deep Six, his choke slam, End of Days. It's just I hate that you have all these incredible moves.
Yeah, he has one of the best move sets on the roster, and what timing that I think I brought it up on the Elimination Chamber one because we were talking about Corbin and I brought it up to you. I was like, yeah, it's crazy the fact that we were talking about his moveset there too, I believe, and I go, the crazy thing about the End of Days is Corbin has gone on record and says he'd rather never win any of the world titles in WWE if it means no one kicks out of that move. And then what happens in the match?
He hits the End of Days on big old Drew McIntyre. He hits End of Days on all 6'8", 270-pound man. And my boy kicks out.
Yeah, he kicks out and, it's thankfully it's one of those things where it's not like previous moves where they don't really mention it that much. They've kind of mentioned it a lot, and especially in this match, the commentary team was really selling it, that this move in all years that Corbin's been on, NXT and main roster, no one's ever kicked out of it, and it finally happens after all these years.
And he sold it, he was really upset, really, confused, and no, it was really good.
Yeah, real great match from the two.
Yeah.
And then there's the post match antics after Drew hits the Claymore and wins.
Important to bring up.
Yeah, Madcap Moss starts getting on the apron, talking to Drew, making it look like he's gonna get in. Drew pulls out the sword, and you feel for the production team because only 2 matches in, Drew comes and cuts the ropes.
He swings at Madcap Moss, who just narrowly ducks this giant sword, and to show you how sharp this sword actually is, Drew McIntyre cuts through the ring ropes in a spot that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and I just started busting up because immediately after someone posted it was like a meme where when the Popeyes chicken sandwich was going crazy, there was a photo that went around of one of the workers that was sitting outside all tired. And it was the WWE production team seeing the ring get destroyed 2 matches in.
Poor people.
But good enough match from the two. You know, Drew gets another Mania match under his belt, and
Yep.
looking to propel himself back into that main title scene because I'm going to pull a Daniel Bryan here and just kind of quickly rant on how fickle the fans are.
Oh, I was wondering what Daniel Bryan had to do with what you're doing. Yeah, I see.
A year ago, or not, slightly a year ago, and a couple months past, people were complaining about Drew constantly being in the title scene, which I'll admit, because, you know, we kept getting rematch after rematch between him and Lashley, but it was supposed to demonstrate his desire, you know, that he actually truly wanted that title, you know, and people were like, please, just get him out of the title.
So I think, if I can play devil's advocate, I think the concern was, like, you know, you remember Rock and Triple H, or Triple H and Austin, or Austin and The Rock just sort of fighting each other to the end of time, right? Those matches were good and we enjoyed them so much we wanted to see them again. Lashley and Drew, sure, they fought and it happened. Do I want another slice of that pie? Absolutely not. But here you go. You're going to serve me another one, right? So Drew's sort of spent some time away from the title scene. He's beaten these couple of Andre the Giant Battle Memorial winners. And we're going to see maybe some fresh matchups.
Yeah, maybe. I think, you know, what truly kind of got people, because now a bunch of people are like, can we please get him back in the title division? I think that's what happens when they take him out of it, and his feuds are with Jinder Mahal, Madcap Moss,
oh, I see.
And Barry Corbin.
It was a war of attrition. We gave people what they wanted. Like, no, put them back.
Yeah, I think they did it on purpose. They were like, well, this is a guy we're trying to keep in the title scene, so let's just show you what's going to happen when we take him out of it. And now everyone's like, all right, we get it. Put him back, please.
Yeah, I'm pretty worried, though, that Drew hasn't come out of that, like, year away from the title scene changed for the better. Like, what's changed? His sword. He has a sword now.
Yeah, I think they should really use these next couple of months to really not only build him even further, but make some type of changes while they still can.
Yeah, like the Drew who won the Royal Rumble in 2020 was a cool guy. Then he became a guy who was fascinated with his own country's Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
And then he started walking around with a sword. There's some happy middle, I think.
Yeah, here's to hoping they find it.
Here, indeed.
But we move on to our next match, our first celebrity match of the two nights. The Mysterios facing off against The Miz and Logan Paul.
The Mysterios dressed in ring attire that reflect two countries. Rey Mysterio is wearing something that is ordained with Mexico's flag's colors. Dominic Mysterio is wearing USA Stars and Stripes. And it's been referenced, or it's been compared to get up that Eddie Guerrero has been known to wear.
Yeah. Little homage there to Eddie, of course, as you would expect from both men. And then we get The Miz and Logan Paul coming out, and Logan Paul coming out wearing a Pokemon card.
I love that. Like, this is one of those things, Jack, that telegraphs that this company is run by an 80-year-old man. But, like, what's the heelish thing that he can do? He can be a big nerd.
Yeah, you know, he comes out wearing the Pokemon card. And I get it, you know, the other factor in it is just how much it costs. But, like, that only plays more into the nerdiness that he spent this much money on a Pokemon card.
Goodness gracious.
What do you think of the match, though, sir?
You know, so it's a celebrity match, so we're all going to come in with a hypercritical eye. And I think Logan Paul, he showed up. He showed up to work. Bad Bunny last year was the big standout surprise. And they're like, look at you. It looks like you trained and tried and really put forth a good effort. Logan Paul did something very similar.
Yeah, he definitely didn't look, I mean, you know, he's not the best wrestler, but, you know, he didn't look green. He didn't look like he was struggling with a lot of those spots. There were certain moments, like my dad brought up to you before we started recording, you know, where, you know, he maybe fell too early, reacted too early.
Yeah. Rey Mysterio throws a kick that we all saw about a foot of distance between the foot and his face. But no, I think the best spot was Logan Paul hitting the Three Amigos on Rey Mysterio. Goodness. Crowd were all over that. Yeah. And then he does the shoulder shimmy in the corner and then the frog splash. And people wanted to do dastardly things to him for desecrating the spirit of Eddie Guerrero. Yeah. By the way, Dominic is late to break up the pin. I think the ghost of Eddie Guerrero himself broke it up.
Yeah, you even see Ray kick out because he's like, he knows he's not getting there in time.
Goodness.
But then, I mean, maybe it wasn't a surprise to other people, but I was very surprised that The Miz and Logan Paul ended up winning. I legitimately didn't see that coming, especially because out of all the celebrity matches, I thought he was going to be the one to lose.
Yeah, no, I agree. A lot of folks were sort of expecting Dominic to turn on Ray, which is something like that probably is going to happen.
Yeah.
Because he's young, and that's a pretty surefire way of jump-starting a career is turn on your dad and stuff.
Yeah, especially because, they've recently noted that apparently, because everyone had been asking, since his debut, why hasn't he worn a mask? And, the whole story there is he has to earn the mask, which it's weird because he's going to have been wrestling he's been wrestling for a year now. Because he started...
there's lots of ways to go about it. You can just be young and obnoxious and forget your traditions, right? Or I'm better than you, or I'm young and brash and, lots of ways of utilizing that.
Yeah, and then...
And you've had moments where Ray's like, I don't trust you, stay in the back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it didn't happen tonight.
Yeah, and then...
we did see a double cross.
Yeah, The Miz ends up hitting the skull-crushing finale on Logan Paul. And it was funny, Marco caught this. Even while he had him, I guess Logan Paul wasn't knowing what quite to do because he was still smiling when The Miz had him ready for the skull-crushing finale.
I saw that too.
It was like he was kind of late with his reactions. But yeah, that was a surprise to some people. But, since he's the heel celebrity, got to have him get punked out for, being here because, celebrities don't belong, quote unquote, in the WWE, and that will always be the mindset for the wrestlers, at least, And
we'll see if anything comes about from this in the near future, or are we looking at a setup for a match, Jack, a year in the making, where Logan Paul, big hotshot celebrity, takes on The Miz, big hotshot celebrity, in big air quotes, Hollywood.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can go with this. I've seen a lot of people predict WrestleMania Backlash is probably where a match happens, but I wouldn't mind the whole thing of building it for a year, Because it seems like at this point, I mean, especially with the way fans have perceived the past matches, especially because of how, dedicated a lot of the celebrities have been to actually, working, and actually putting in the work and training required. Who knows if they treat it as an annual thing where there's going to be at least one celebrity match. Which, I mean, at least it's better than from the past where they would come in and all they would do is throw a punch, do a move or two. It's like now we have celebrities putting in the training to actually do full-on sequences and matches.
Jack is calling you out, Mickey Rourke, or Mike Tyson, or Nick Fury, or...
There's so many.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move on, of course, to a match with a ton of build. Has been building since SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Becky Lynch defending the Raw Women's title against Bianca Belair.
Correct.
How are you feeling going into this match, sir?
I am worried. I am trepidatious. I want Bianca to win, but I don't want her to win in 25 seconds, which would have bookended their story nicely since she lost her match in 26 seconds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the company is prone to do something silly like that, especially on a crowded card like WrestleMania. Yeah. We would have all felt really gypped if that happened.
Yeah, I was glad they gave it the time, and the tease at the beginning where, you know, she hit that manhandle slam, and
even before that, Bianca puts out the hand for the handshake. We're all thinking of SummerSlam. So I'm definitely on the edge of my seat wanting this to be a full match. And we got one!
Yeah, we got one finally. And what'd you think, sir?
It was really good.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the first match that's, really good.
Yeah. And, you know, they really... I really loved a lot of the storytelling elements in it, especially, you know, because of how often they've interacted since SummerSlam. It's like they kind of know the counters to each of their moves, you know. It's like anytime Bianca tries to hit that KOD, Becky's getting out of it.
Yeah.
You know, or even when she tries to hit that one kind of like the glam slam that Beth Phoenix would do, she finds her way out of it as well.
We saw Bianca hit Becky with the disarmer of her own.
Yeah.
Which was great.
The hair, of course, was coming into play.
Yep.
Oh, also forget to mention, both of them get big entrances. Becky coming out in her car. Bianca being welcomed out by a marching band playing her theme.
From a college in Texas. I thought Becky's like Tron, where they recreate the WWE logo but with just footage of her. I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah, and also, I guess Marco didn't notice it as well either. There was also kind of an allude to Marvel as well, the way they did it.
Yeah.
So that was cool to see. And then, you know, like I said, the hair, Bianca's hair playing into it. The one spot that really, I just wish they could have done differently was the close count out spot where they got to 9 and Bianca still wasn't moving, but the moment they got to 9, that's when she immediately popped up and got back.
Pops up.
I was I wish around 8 she could have at least been crawling, you know.
And you know what's funny? I didn't used to think this before. I actually thought the opposite. But I think WWE should adopt New Japan's 20 count. I think there's a lot that could be done with that. 10, it's almost no time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
20 gives the wrestlers time to actually kind of get their bearings and, you know, react. Yeah. But because of 10, Bianca just pops up and no-sells everything.
Yeah. And, you know, especially because a lot of times they get lenient with the count, so it's might as well just
that's
go
for
20.
Sure. How fast or how slow we're counting, right?
Yeah. So it's at that. But
my favorite part of the New Japan count is when he gets to 13, the guy starts to panic in his voice. In the beginning, it's 1, 2, 3. And then in the middle, he's 11, 12, 13. And then at the end, he's 16, 17, 18.
I wouldn't mind seeing that 20 count adopted here in the States. I think it could do wonders. I know Ring of Honor does it under the pure match style. But I definitely would like to see more people adopt it, especially with how lenient they can be with the count at times. But
they're lenient all over the place because we saw them outside. The stairs had been sort of shook up so that the bottom part of the stairs are exposed. And we see Becky hit a manhandle slam onto the steel stairs. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and one of the spots I thought we were going to see was Becky try and lock in the disarmer. And honestly, I would have thought it would have been the final spot where she locks into disarmer and Bianca finds a way to get up from that and transition it into the KOD. But I like the finishing spot we got instead where, you know, she's trying to pull her down with the hair. And instead she does the backflip and immediately gets her into the KOD for the win.
Bianca Belair, your new Raw Women's Champion.
Back-to-back years does she not only win a title at Mania.
And CBS Sports declares she has a Undertaker style streak. against 2-0.
Mm-hmm. And against 2 of the 4 horsewomen.
Goodness gracious. Don't curse her like that. Don't doom her. Don't ruin my WrestleMania in LA, Jack. I mean, you did it. You said it. You put it out there in the universe. We're getting Bianca versus Charlotte.
The flashbacks to 2020.
Goodness. Save us, Y2J.
But I had this as my match of the night. At the time, I maybe once we finish up this card, there's one match in contention with it. And it's the match right after.
My match of the night is coming up. It's Seth Rollins who comes out. He has a student orchestra singing him out. He's wearing way more lace than I think a man should wear. And he's waiting for his mystery opponent, Jack, handpicked by Vince McMahon himself, as is the other 75,000 people at the AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, he's out there waiting, and he's talking. You mentioned how you kept the entire time because of this company. You thought it was Shane.
I just thought it was going to be bad. It was going to be Shane, his sweaty self sliding down the ramp. It could have been Goldberg.
Yeah, the line that scared
to the ring.
The line that scared a ton of people is when Seth goes, "Come on, time is money." Someone was like, "Oh no, we're about to hear. Here comes the money."
No, the lights go off. A bunch of pyro goes off, and the very next thing we hear is wrestling has more than one royal family.
Yeah, and that crowd goes wild.
Goodness gracious. Adrenaline filled my soul, Jack, at the revelation that Cody Rhodes has come back to WWE.
Yeah, and I really loved the commentary on it because it was like it was the one reference they had to make. The prodigal son has returned.
It's true.
Basically the guy who was the forefront of, hey, leave if you believe, you are better, if you deserve better, if you can be doing better, And
you know what I heard somebody say in the build up to this event and this weekend? And Cody Rhodes has actually had a trajectory similar to Drew McIntyre. Yeah. Drew McIntyre left, made himself into Drew Galloway, who was a beast of a man who ruled Europe, right, and Independence and Impact. And Cody has a similar transformation story. He comes back, and they're letting him, Jack, be the American Nightmare, letting him come out in his red, white, and blue, letting him come down to Downstate's weird song.
Yeah, and I brought it up to my dad. We actually saw the 3 most notable cases of this on this WrestleMania card, which I told my dad, it's crazy that back in the 2000s, like late 2000s and stuff.
Hold on, don't tell me. You saying it's Drew, like who came back as stronger and championship material? You got Cody come back bigger and better, and then who's the third from the early 2000s who left, came back? Who?
So the 3 men, they kind of either left or got released and raised their stock once they left so that when they returned, this third guy, it kind of took them a while before they finally did it. But you have Drew, who got released, as you mentioned, went and got better. Cody left on his own terms, went and got better. And Bobby Lashley,
wow!
All 3 were kind of promising prospects, but didn't kind of live up. Lashley, very similar to Drew, they didn't live up to the main event build they were trying to get them to. Leave, get released, whatever. And then they went and raised their stock.
Hey, Bobby Lashley night too, though.
Yeah. But that's what I mentioned to my dad after watching that match on night 2 was it's crazy to think these 3 men, back in the late 2000s were like supposed to be like the future and stuff. They had that build, but all it took was them kind of leaving to build themselves back up to come back, with their stock raised, as we see here with Cody Rhodes coming back. And very crazy to see him jumping ship. This is the one time we can say jumping ship from AEW to WWE.
Mm-hmm. And he gets a big-time match at a big-time stage against a big-time star like Seth freaking Rollins. I was telling your dad this. This man's beating Roman Reigns. He's beating Brock Lesnar. He's beating Triple H. This is a high-caliber opponent here for Cody's comeback match. How did it go, Jack? What'd you think?
I thought it was a pretty good match. I got to go back to commentary, of course, as he's making his way down the ring. To all the people that were like, because, as we mentioned, they kept his entire presentation from AEW. Everyone kind of wondered, you can't go without mentioning AEW. What's the first thing they mentioned on commentary? The man went from undesirable to undeniable.
Wow.
Immediately referencing that promo that he cut on like the early years of AEW Dynamite. And
I certainly didn't catch that.
Yeah, and I when Cody said that promo and looking at it now, even years later, it's like, it's so true, because this man came back and him and Rollins pulled out all the stops for this match, which could be
tons
expected.
of counters. My favorite set of counters was they're trying to suplex each other, but they can't get them past a couple of inches off the ground. That was really cool.
Yeah, and then both men trying to hit the pedigree, of course.
Well, I think Cody's actually trying to hit the Tiger Bomb.
Yeah.
And they don't call it a Tiger Bomb. And it really bums me out. It makes me I miss Excalibur immediately. Oh, I have to bring this up. I hate to distract from a really good match. But there's Corey Graves, there's Brian Saxton, and there's a fella in the middle. The fella in the middle is?
Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, I don't know who he is, and I don't watch Raw. But I think he is only hired because he sounds a little like Joe Rogan.
I noticed that a bit. I think he was one of the former UFC announcers or MMA announcers, one of the two. That's where he crossed over from.
He's like vaccinated Joe Rogan. And so my boy is ruining all kinds of names and wrestling moves. So yeah, Cody definitely hits a Tiger Bomb. I think Excalibur even calls it Tiger Bomb 74, to distinguish it from a different decade's Tiger Bomb.
Yeah, and then the one spot where, I forget what he does, but Rollins is just looking at him, and he does the cartwheel and does the Stardust taunt.
He does it once to give us all what we want, and just a really great hello.
Yeah, and that's real great to see. There was the spots of both men doing dives to the outside. Cody having his different cutter spots. I don't know what I was doing, but I missed when he hit the first crossroads. A lot of people were making a big deal about that, his first crossroads hit and stuff, because I think it's been a while since he's done it, and so I missed it when he first did it.
Yeah, and it doesn't get him the pin. By the way, that was a Tiger Driver 98.
There we go.
If I'm going to hold Jimmy Smith to high expectations, I have to hold myself to the same high expectations. Yeah, it's going to take more than one crossroads to put down Seth Rollins.
Yeah. It was just such a great return match. All the moves and references they were pulling out.
References to Dusty Rhodes with the jabs and the bionic elbow. So good.
Yeah. Even all the references to his brother Dustin's moves,
Oh, yeah, the ones that he adopted. You know what's funny, too? Cody does moves that, he got from, Hardcore Holly, which are great to see.
Yeah.
There's, that one at the ropes, when he kicks the guy in the midsection.
Oh, yeah.
That's Bob Holly, which is, it's fun to remember.
Yeah, honestly, I was struggling after this match ended, because I was like, man, what two great matches to get back-to-back and now have to struggle to decide what's match of the night.
For me, if I'm being biased, it's Cody's Seth. But I've heard a lot of people say it goes to Bianca and Becky.
But real quick, sir, I just noticed 20 seconds left in this episode, so we'll close.
Two bits left to go.
Yeah. So we'll close here and say just real quickly, 10 seconds left. Thank you for joining for this episode. Tune into the next episode for the rest of Night 1 and Night 2.